Hey everybody, welcome back to Ken Michaels Radio, where every show is about the Beatles. And we have right now three very special guests to bring on, hopefully a fourth one as well. You may know that a few weeks ago, Ringo Starr did two concerts at the Ryman Theater in Nashville, Tennessee, the original Grand Ole Opry. And I thought it might be a cool idea since I had the thrill of seeing both those shows to welcome on my show three, hopefully four people who are also there to see the shows. So it's not just a review from me, it's coming from all my guests on this particular program. And it's kind of funny because right outside on the curb in front of the Ryman, these three people were talking with me just for a couple of minutes, and then little did I know that they'd all end up on the show. But let's introduce all three of them. First of all, Tom Frangione, or maybe I should say Frangione.
Yes, if you want to be legit, yeah, yeah.
I can explain that later.
All right.
But if you listen to the Beatles channel on Sirius-XM, he's all over the place. He's
Yeah.
got five shows that he's a co-host of.
Yep.
Maybe he can run them all down towards the end of the show, but he's a busy beaver. And if you love the channel, you hear him all the time on there. And once in a while, we have him on this one.
Sure.
Sometimes I invite him on with Al Sussman because Tom and Al and I used to do shows
Yeah.
together on WDHA in New Jersey. But anyway, Tom, welcome back.
Oh, it's always great to hang with you, Ken. We were doing a podcast a couple days ago for Megan down in Florida, and talking about all the people in this network, and I couldn't believe how the numbers are adding up. And I said, "Oh yeah, sure, Ken. I've known Ken for, oh my God, 40 years. I mean, that's crazy. It's crazy."
Yeah, well, I started doing my Beatles show 43 years ago.
Yeah, it was in the 80s. Yeah, in at WDHA. Sure.
Yeah, well, before that on college radio in
Yeah.
92, but you wouldn't remember like about what year we first met, right?
I'm gonna say it's somewhere like around 85, 86 is when the first time Al and I may have made that trek out to Dover in the ungodly early morning hours on Sundays to do the All Request Beatles show. It was always fun. For sure, I know 86, 7. I know we're bringing all kinds of cool stuff. I remember the morning we brought the Russian album, or things that were coming over from England on CD, like Prince's Trust stuff. So it's probably like 86 is my guess.
Yeah, around that time, especially in the 80s, Paul was good at putting out CD singles from his
Yeah,
album,
oh, yeah,
bench singles from Press to Play and all, and you had to collect all of them.
sure,
Uh,
sure.
and I had my own store there that I used to advertise on the radio station, and he gave me prizes. Music
Yep,
Unlimited of Elmwood Park.
you bet.
Yeah, and often you would bring some stuff over too. And
Yeah,
we kind of originated. I really got a big kick out of the end of every year. Tom would come on with Al, and we would do highlights of the previous year, and then have a wish list for the following year. And we
yeah.
made that, we
It was
did
a
that.
standing show. Yeah, it was a whole lot of fun.
And so we've been doing it on things we said today, and sometimes we do it on Talk More Talk. So the tradition keeps carrying on.
Yeah, it's great.
But anyway, great to have you back here.
Glad
We
to be here.
Yeah, Scott O'Rourke, who does a Beatles show called With the Beatles. It's on Stonybrook College, WSBU. It's called
WUSB.
USB. See, that confuses me because of the USB.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, just plug right
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
You should play off of that, really.
Should, yeah.
So, what time is the show on again?
It's midnight on Thursday or Wednesday night, midnight Thursday.
Because it was bi-weekly, and now I feel like it's every week.
Yeah, yeah. I was able to get the weekly slot now, so it works better for me, believe it or not. So
Okay. All
yeah.
right, great show, great selection of songs that he does. Goes deep into the Beatles catalog and plays the hits too. And we also have Jeremy Potirala, who is a big fan of all of us. Really,
Yes.
if you think about it, he listens to things we said today, watches us, and talk more talk. He listens to all of Tom's shows on Sirius-XM, and he listens to Scott. So he's a Beatles fan extraordinaire, glued
Thank
to the radio. And this is your first time here. Good to have you with us.
Thank you, Ken. Yes, and again, yeah, you said it well. Thank you. I'm a slacker compared to the other two, and to you. So there you go. But it's a pleasure to be on.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the two shows. Expect some of you saw him more than once.
Mm.
So,
Well,
Scott, you were at one show, right?
Yeah, yeah. The
Me?
not yeah, not one.
First one.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Jeremy, you were at one?
At both. At
Oh,
both. Yep.
okay. All right. So my first question to you guys um, is this concert what you envisioned originally? Because you knew that he was going to be premiering songs from the new album, Look Up,
Yep.
which we have right here,
Yep.
country album. We knew that, but we weren't really told who the backing band would be. I kind of guessed that it would be some of the musicians on the new album. Could it be any of the All-Stars? I
Yeah.
didn't know. Nobody really told us anything about it. So
Well,
kind of what you envisioned, Tom?
well, kind of, yeah, but in interest of full disclosure, I had kind of a behind the curtain peek. The production team had reached out to me, actually had reached out to the Beatles channel, and it got to me to talk about the show and what they were going to have for this upcoming taping, that we're going to get to see on CBS TV. Now, without doing all kinds of spoilers here, they said, well, it's gonna be Ringo and a bunch of guests, and they told me, and they said very, very much subject to change, which it turned out to be. They
Hmm.
gave me an early peek at guests and even a set list, and the reason was to write the questions for what will be the interview segment of the show. So as I understand it, and again, everything's subject to change, they'll have, I don't know, Ringo or Billy Strings or somebody talking about Act Naturally and Buck Owens,
Hmm.
and that will fade into the performance of Act Naturally or something like that.
Hmm.
So I was asked to write some questions based around the facts of the story. Came out this year, was on this album, charted at this peak position, and then frame a question around it. This way, whoever was going to do the interview could say, hey, that song, What Goes On, that was on Rubber Soul. I remember in 1965 when that came out, you did blah, blah, blah. Rather than, risk it and have them say, when that song came out and it was on Meet the Beatles in 1968, I remember, but we had to kind of hold it together. Originally it was going to be T-Bone interviewing Ringo, and then they said, well, no, it's going to be T-Bone being interviewed with Ringo, and someone else would do the interviews. I said, okay, who? And it looks like Sheryl Crow got the nod for that. So
Okay.
there's plenty going to happen. So yeah, to your question, there was plenty out there in advance that we were obviously all sworn to secrecy on. Apparently I held that pretty good because it lasted till just 2 minutes ago. Certainly up till showtime. But they made no secrets of this at the show. This is going to be on CBS in March or April, and T-Bone is going to be here, and he's going to introduce all the songs and all that good stuff. So yeah, I had a bit of a probably an inside track on that to understand what it would be like. Again, working off a very tentative list, but it was kind of interesting. Certainly the list that I saw didn't have things like Without Her and Have You Seen My Baby,
Uh,
and You Don't Know Me at All, and it certainly didn't have those on it. So
okay.
there was still plenty of surprises for me, for sure.
Were there songs in the original set list that were taken out from what?
No, because the set list that I saw was only the Ringo led numbers. So there were no actually there was one from the new album. Thankful and Time on My Hands were in there. I want to say the third one was swapped out. I can't remember off the top of my head what was originally slated in there, but it wasn't the title track. It wasn't Look Up.
Okay. Do you know anything about the rehearsals? How many were?
I know when they were. I don't know anything that happened at them. I wasn't privileged to get in there. I know the day before because remember, we're all smarter than everybody else, right? Kind of like when Paul and Ringo did the David Lynch benefit in New York, there were
Mm.
a number of people who were smart enough to say, you know what I'm going to do that afternoon? They sell tickets for like $6 to do the Radio City tour. I'm going to go in there and see what's going on. And they took the tour, and there they are, sound checking and working through numbers. I thought that, well, I know what I'm going to do in Nashville the day before when they're doing rehearsals. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go take the Ryman tour. And
Uh,
if you went to Ryman.com, it had all the dates for the general tours. That day, we're closed. So there wasn't even a back door for that.
yeah. What I tried to do with my wife was to show up early and see if I can hear anything outside the building,
Mm,
but we didn't
yeah,
hear a thing. So,
yeah.
Jeremy, what did you think this concert was going to be? Is it what it turned out to be? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, I went in excited. I mean, I love the All-Star Band, but I was lucky enough in '05 to see the Roundhead show at Genesee Theater in Waukegan, which became the DVD and Blu-ray. And we had like fourth row tickets. And I just love the fact that it was Ringo that was, front and center for almost the entire show. Colin Hay did a few songs. So I was kind of thinking when a
Mm.
group of friends were like, hey, what do you think? How about to start off the new year? Let's go to Nashville. Let's see Ringo. And I was kind of like, okay, this is really cool. And I just, again, kind of put two and two together. I'm like, T-Bone is outstanding. His work speaks for itself. I mean, I love the work that he did with Leon Russell and Elton John for the Union album.
Mm.
Fantastic album. So I'm like, okay, I want to see, just looking at the album and who is going to be on it, I'm like, okay, maybe it's kind of the new faces of Nashville with the old faces of Nashville, with Ringo kind of right in the middle. So yeah, it fits, what I was thinking it was going to be. And I knew it was going to be the TV show. Like Tom said, they made it obvious. So I knew that I guess Ringo was not going to be out there 100% of the time. Other people were going to do some songs. The three that Tom mentioned, sure. I had friends messaging me, oh, did Ringo do it? Did Ringo? I would have loved to have heard him do those three, but it was like, okay, I understood what the premise of the show was. So I went to it, sure. Would I have wanted different ones, or would I have wanted even more of the new album? Sure. But it was very, as you know, very high energy, and even outside people were definitely, there was a buzz, going on. I stayed at a different hotel a few blocks away, and even when I left there, people were like, oh, you're going to see Ringo, kind of thing. And it's like, so it had gotten around downtown Nashville, so that was cool. But yes, the show itself, I was very satisfied, and I knew going in it wasn't an all-star show. It was for a TV special. In between songs there might be breaks, of a few minutes, just because whether they're changing camera angles. So I was definitely ready for all of that.
But there's a difference between, say, a Roundhead show where Ringo's singing just about lead vocals on all the songs and what we had in this special. Did you
Yeah.
think it was going to be like an all-star country band, which I wish Ringo would tour with, which would be pretty cool?
Yeah.
Did you think that it was be a that they would be a backing band and Ringo would sing most of the lead vocals, or did you think that the other musicians would also sing lead vocals?
I actually thought about half and half was what I was
Yeah.
thinking. I thought it was really cool, obviously, with Jim Keltner drumming, you
Mm,
know, and he's made it known that he doesn't really leave LA these days, and the fact that, wow, there's Jim Keltner, that's fabulous.
Mm.
And younger band, and stuff, and people rotating, Jack White and Sheryl Crow, who I'm a big fan of, was like, that's really cool. So
mm.
yeah, so I, again, what I expected, maybe Ringo on a few more songs than he was, but was I dissatisfied? No, it was.
Hmm. Okay.
Mm.
Scott, your turn. Is this show what you expected it to be?
At first, I thought it was going to be kind of like a Roundhead show. I
Hmm.
was not expecting Ringo to get off the stage and let these other musicians sing, but well, when I was watching the show, I accepted it. I'm like, it's really not a bad format because, like everyone says, it's for the show, and I was still very satisfied. My first time seeing Ringo, I was very happy. And I know the last few All Star tours, Ringo, he hasn't been doing any new songs. So
Yeah.
that was going to the Ryman was another reason to see Ringo perform new songs too. So
Yeah.
yeah, I was very very happy. I had a great time. I was really impressed with the three deeper songs. I'm happy that those songs were part of a Ringo set list, even
Yeah.
though Ringo didn't sing on them, but they were part of a Ringo set list. So I was very very happy with the whole show.
Well, I certainly hope that when Ringo tours again with the All Stars, considering the great reaction, critical reaction
Oh yeah.
to this album, at least do Time on My Hands. At least do
Sure.
one song from it, acknowledge that.
Yeah. Well, that was kind
Yeah.
of one of the great draws here. We haven't seen Ringo do new material since, well, Give More Love, he did on the road again at a couple of shows and then dropped it, partway through the tour. So we haven't seen him do new material, brand new released material in quite a long time. So that was really a thrill to catch that.
So he did Give More Love, the song Give More Love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it on the road again or Give More Love?
Give More Love. You
Give
said,
More Love? Okay. Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
On the Road Again is the perfect song to do for the
of
band.
course. Yeah.
Steve
Yeah.
Lukather wrote it.
Yeah.
And
Um,
what's my name too?
yeah. I mean, any of those, I mean, he could have done them, but he's gotten away from doing new material. The All-Star Band has settled into a very, very comfortable space, even right down to the players in it and their respective songs. So, getting to hear him do songs we've never heard him sing before
Right.
was still pretty cool. I
Yeah.
mean, how many more times are we going to get that opportunity?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Would any of you know, was this all T-Bone's idea to do these shows?
Don't know if I mean I heard the whole thing in one big blast, probably the way everybody did. The new album's coming. He's gonna launch it with shows at the Ryman.
Yep.
T-Bone's gonna put together a band. Um, then we learned that it would be filmed for TV and all, which is great.
Hmm.
So I don't know who said, you know what we should do? We should, do two shows at the Ryman and film it. It all seemed to kind of come out of the initial blast of news. At least that's how I got to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one thing I'm pleased about is that there's a lot of promotion behind this. I
Yeah.
mean, just to have a TV special.
Yeah,
Last time Ringo's had a TV special, Rats, you know,
yeah, yeah.
it's
Well,
it's
that's kind of cool. I think that's the angle with getting, the Billy Strings and Jack Whites of the world. It'll be Ringo Starr and friends,
right.
uh, doing a country celebration, and it'll help keep the fire stoked for the new album, which has gotten great press and great reviews and charted well. So hopefully that this will keep it going for the next chunk of time.
Yeah. How do you think the new songs sounded with this band? The three songs that were performed.
I,
Um,
I think
Scott,
I think they sounded great. I think they sounded phenomenal.
yeah, they
Yeah,
almost sounded like the record. There was that kind
yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
no surprise. I mean, the band that was there was mostly the guys on the record, and T-Bone is not going to put together a bunch of mutts for something like this. It's going to be the top guys.
Yeah.
right.
You know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I wanted to get the guy's name. The steel guitar player is just
Yeah.
tremendous.
Yes.
That's Paul Franklin.
Yeah.
He's
Great.
a very very respected player, and it was kind of cool. And I'm pretty amazed that more people haven't pointed this out because he's on the album
Yeah.
too. Daniel Tashin, who's a
Right.
big, very well respected producer, writer, musician on the Nashville scene.
Hmm.
His dad was Barry Tashin, Barry and the Remains, who toured with the Beatles.
Huh?
So how haven't people said, "Wow, look at what's come full circle here"?
Right.
You know.
Wonder if Daniel said anything to Ringo about that.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta wonder.
I also wondered, T-Bone himself being a great musician, why he didn't play it all on stage. I guess he
No.
wanted to be the MC.
Yeah. And that was kind of interesting too. The first night
Yeah,
he came out toward the end and talked a little bit, but within 24 hours, maybe they said we'll do it one way on the first night and one way on the second, or maybe I don't know this, maybe after the first night they said no, you know what, we need to have the pace upped a little. Let's have T-Bone out there from the get-go saying, and now Jack White, and now Sheryl Crow, whatever it was. But you could see that they were still doing this, not on the fly, but pretty much anything, was that's why you do it twice, right?
Mhm.
You get the best takes. Who knows? They'll edit one, they'll put two together, they'll pick one night's performance over another, whatever it might be. But they have a couple of different flavors to choose from.
Yeah, I
yeah,
definitely felt the second show was flawless,
Much, much tighter, sure.
very tight, and you could let the TV special be just that show. But
correct.
did you notice, guys, that the first show Ringo messed up on the title track of
Yeah,
Look Up? He was
Yeah.
really upset with himself.
yeah,
So,
Well, these again, he's in such a comfort zone with Help from My Friends and Yellow Sub and It Don't Come Easy and Photograph. This is the first time he's ever done it live. I mean, anywhere, right? So,
yeah,
I mean, he's not even done it like, on Kimmel or, or anywhere else. It was
uh-huh,
the first time he ever did those songs live. So, um, so big deal if you got to rely on the monitor a little bit. Who cares?
yeah,
Um, but it's just how, it's the nature of that beast. And like I say, seeing him do new material is a rare treat to begin with.
definitely. Yeah, I thought that was actually Ken when you brought that up. Him flubbing "Look Up" a little bit was actually one of my favorite moments because it was literally the humanness
right.
coming out. This
That
is
make that
Ringo.
makes oh
Not,
sorry.
yeah, it's not pre-recorded. It's not, which again is a big thing with shows these days. It's not mimed. It's not this is literally him saying, wait a minute, hold on, let's start this again. It
Yeah.
was, and then Molly, really, kind of, Molly Tuttle really, was great with him on that. And one of my highlights of both nights was that song.
Mm.
Yeah. Scott, you wanted to say something?
I was gonna say I agree with Jeremy that the Look Up performance to me it makes the memory of the show.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
My opinion. That's like yeah.
Reminds you of when Paul screwed up on We Can Work It Out.
yep,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
Although I think that was set up too.
yeah.
yeah.
I think he also made a mistake in A Day in the Life too
At
when he
where?
did that. When he did A Day in the Life the first time,
Oh,
I
okay.
think he sang like the same verse again or something like that.
Okay. Hey,
I,
it's allowed, you know?
I know he
Yeah.
did "You Never Give Me Your Money," where he actually made a joke out of lyrics.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Back in the US tour, yeah.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
Here's the part where I don't know the word.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
And I think John's flubbed up some lyrics too on Come Together Live or something like that.
Of course. Now you can
Yeah.
hear that all over
Yeah.
the one album.
Oh yeah.
All right, so what did you think of the song selection of the entire concert? For me, I mean, I love the whole concept of it, but I think they really went Beatle heavy. I
Mhm.
wish there was more of the solo Ringo.
Yeah.
Um, and the only thing that I would even question is I Don't Want to Spoil the Party, which Ringo didn't sing lead to, but I know it's a country and western song.
Yeah.
Well,
Uh,
that to me was an absolute highlight both nights.
uh-huh.
Sheryl Crow and Molly Tuttle doing I Don't Want to Spoil the Party. And
Yeah.
on night number two, this is why T-Bone, kind of retooled his thing. He came out and spoke about that
Yeah.
song. This
Yep.
is where country rock started. Everything happened after this one.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just an absolute highlight both nights. Now, I'm not a real big fan or follower of a lot of what's going on in country. And I mean, I know who Molly Tuttle is. That's about it. But I got to say, she was spectacular. Absolutely spectacular on that.
Great voice and guitarist. Yep.
Well, on
Def-
things we said today, we kind of questioned a little bit about that comment from T-Bone because same period with Beatles for Sale, you could say a lot of the rockabilly stuff
Sure.
doing on there.
Honey Don't,
Country.
Honey Don't.
And I'm a Loser has got, country and western elements to it. I even, for many years when I listened to Can't Buy Me Love, I always thought it's flat out rock and roll. But then you'll read sometimes people reviewing it saying it's got a country and western twang to it. Certainly
Sure.
George's guitar solo. So I don't know if I Don't Want to Spoil the Party was the first.
Yeah.
But
Well, it was great. It was really like country rock. I mean, yes, you can say songs like, heck, you can go back to All My Lovin', right? George's guitar solo, very Chet Atkins kind of thing, but
yeah,
it didn't make it country rock. It really wasn't country rock yet.
Yeah.
It was pop music that had a nice little country splash in it or something. But yeah, certainly by the time you get to I Don't Want to Spoil the Party, it's flat out country rock.
Yeah. And there's some, Ken, when you mentioned that song, it was interesting because you almost wonder if T-Bone had maybe looked online or that, because people were even questioning me saying, what the hell are they doing? I Don't Want to Spoil the Party for. That's not a Ringo song. I'm like, he's a Beatle. Yes, that is a Ringo song in my eyes. But that's why I think T-Bone said it before the second show, was maybe this is why we're doing it. This is, in my opinion, this is why we're doing it. So I think when he did that intro the second night, it kind of, people were like, why did they do that? I think it kind of set that story to bed.
okay.
Yeah.
Overall, what did you guys think of the song selection? Is it what you would have wanted, or
I mean, look, you've got some pretty hardcore dyed-in-the-wool Ringo fans on this
yeah,
episode. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm going to see the All Stars in June at Radio City.
right?
I know what the set list is going to be, right? I mean, unless he shuffles one or two in from the new album, which who knows, maybe, maybe not. But you kind of know what you're going to get. It's not the set list. Again, it'd be like we've had this conversation many times, like a Paul set list.
Mhm.
No two people will pick the same group. Yeah, I would have loved to have seen Bukus of Blues done.
Absolutely.
I would have loved to seen $15 Draw or some other song from Buku Blues, Coochie Coochie, whatever.
And hear Ringo do it.
And hear Ringo do it.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Or at least play on it.
Right. Well, speaking of seeing him play on something, one of the little quirks that I thought was kind of a cool takeaway was What Goes On, which Ringo has played with the All-Star Band. But when he does that with the All-Star Band, he's out front singing it.
That's right.
Here, he was not singing it. He was playing drums. For sure. This was the first time I ever saw Ringo play drums on What Goes On.
Yeah.
Sure.
That was a highlight.
Yep.
Definitely.
Same token, probably the only, and I don't even want to say disappointment, because I'm grateful for anything Ringo and Paul do. They don't owe us a thing. I've said that so many times. But you have opportunities here with Don't Pass Me By being performed by Jack White.
Mhm.
And you've got Octopus's Garden being performed with Molly Tuttle. And Ringo never drums on those songs live. He doesn't have to sing it. He could just go behind the drum kit and drum to it. And he didn't do it. He
Yeah.
only drummed on 2 songs in the whole night.
Yeah, Boys and
And yeah,
Boys, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Again, not the total set list I'd have picked. I'm very happy with what I saw. And it was kind of cool seeing people that you don't normally associate with Ringo, like Billy Strings and Molly Tuttle and people like that, pulling out, songs from the Ringo catalog, like Without Her. Did you ever think in a million years you would ever hear that song performed live?
Never.
Even tangentially at a Ringo show. Okay.
Out of all the Bukus of Blues songs, that's the
Right.
song they choose.
Right. But even like You Don't Know Me at All, but who sang it? Mickey Guyton.
Yes.
Beautiful. Just beautiful.
amazing.
When they
Changed it up.
when they said a song from Ringo's
Ringo's Reviewer, right.
yeah, I thought they were gonna sing Crying for a minute.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, they're gonna do Crying. I'm like, nope.
Yeah, would
Yeah,
have been nice.
I would have loved. I mean, he could have done the album start to finish. I would have been happy. But like Tom said, Ringo's at this age, he's in a comfort zone. I was just happy with what he did. Yes, would I have loved my set list would have been way different too. And this was funny though when you think what people want to hear. There was a guy behind me on the second night, and he was there with his wife. And he would talk to her, and he goes, "Wouldn't it be great to hear Heart on My Sleeve?" And funny, I turned around to him and I said, "I've always loved that song." And when he does that live on the Rat special, that's one of the highlights on there. I'm like, wow, that would have been great. But again, at Ringo's age, he's going to do what he's comfortable with. So, but it was still, like I said, hearing any of the new songs was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, even going in once we had that announcement, they're going to do, and I'd heard, it will be Beatles songs countrified, it will be songs from the new album, and it will be some solo things. And I said, okay, well, we know what a couple of the country treatments on his solo stuff might sound like, right? Go to the Give More Love album, listen to that version of Photograph with Van,
Redos.
Yeah.
and you say, okay, I can now hear Photograph, in its original form, not anywhere near a country record, but I can hear that as a country song. And if it's a night of that, I'll be fine, right?
Yeah.
Yet I started looking through his solo catalog, saying, "I'd like to hear this one. This would be a good one."
Uh-huh.
I said, "Oh my God, he's going to do Honey Don't, right? What if he did Sure to Fall? What if he did? Because I love that country treatment that he did with Paul on the Stop and Smell the Roses album. It's just a beautiful, beautiful record."
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping for that, but
Yeah.
no such luck.
Yeah. That was sitting at the airport terminal waiting to board and doing what Tom did. I'm like going down the albums. I'm saying, boy, this would be great to hear. This would be great to hear, that kind of thing. But I mean, that's any fan's wish list.
Sure.
I would have loved to hear a countrified version of Goodnight, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Look, there was so many places to go with this. I mean, again, just open up the Buku of Blues album, just open it up right from there. Would have been neat. Now, and this is now going to probably sound like we're going down or at least I'm going down a rabbit hole, as I am wont to do. One of the guys who wrote a couple of the songs on the new album, Billy Swan, years ago. All right, big hit.
Yeah.
I Can Help.
Yep.
Yes.
I mean, to me, it always sounded like a Ringo song.
Yep.
Right? It always did. I said, how cool would...
From the moment someone said that to me, every time I hear Billy Swan's version, I think of Ringo.
Yeah.
I never thought of it that way, but yeah, his voice does sound a bit.
Yeah. And, Ringo cut that on the Chips Moment album, which we, haven't officially gotten to hear. But I said, how cool would it be to hear him do that? How cool would that have been?
Right.
Yeah. Would have been really neat.
Yes.
And leading up to the release of the new album, Ringo was kidding around, I guess, in some interviews saying, and I'm thinking of doing a country version of With a Little Help from My Friends. It's the same version that he's doing with his All-Star band. So
yeah. And of course, just add 20, 30, 40 people on stage and it just, you take what you can get,
Yeah. But I think one of the purposes of doing this show was to prove how country music has been a constant in Ringo's career.
Oh, yeah.
And so as far as what Ringo's performing, it's Beatles and 3 songs from the new album with nothing in the middle. Like you said, Tom, it sure would be nice if he would acknowledge Buku's of Blues and play any song from Buku's of Blues. Or like Scott said, Crying. A song like that is so perfect, and just to show that he's been doing this on a fairly regular basis.
Yeah. Actually, Buku of Blues was one that was on the working set list, the first one that I saw. But not for Ringo to sing. It wasn't even like at that point I had half a thought that it would be him. It was someone who ends up not doing the show, but and hence it's a scratch. But I said, well, at least whoever's putting this together, whether it's T-Bone or the production company or whoever's putting this together, they're working here and they're digging a little bit, which is nice. Okay,
Mm.
you know, again, network television, you put the name Ringo Starr on it, people are going to say, "Boy, I hope he sings Help from My Friends and Photograph and whatever." Um, you know, again, a different crowd, a different audience right here. For me to hear, back to back, have you seen my baby and you don't know me at all?
Amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing, you know? And, of course, any band, we talked briefly about T-Bone putting the band together. Ace Nashville players across the board.
Right.
Any band is better when Jim Keltner gets in it,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Right.
any band.
Yeah.
So, it was great to see Jim Keltner live too.
Not only that, but I mentioned that Ringo only drums on two of the songs. One
Yeah.
of the reasons I wanted him to drum more is so he could drum with Jim.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Nice reunion there.
Yeah.
So there were three surprises, and you were just mentioning them, Tom, between Without Her, and Scott will attest to this because I was asking him, what was that song? It didn't sound anything.
Oh no, 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 no.
No,
Yeah.
completely changed.
Completely reworked. I mean, but it was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
It was phenomenal. It was a duo called the War and Treaty who did
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Just terrific. And again, this is why you have editing and you have post. I don't know if you remember what T-Bone said when they came out. They're going to do this great song by Harry Nilsson. And
Yes.
I'm going, okay, if he meant Without You, Harry didn't write that either, but at least people would make the connection.
Call me.
But
Call me.
no, I'm thinking, he's thinking Without You.
Yes.
Oh.
Is what he was thinking.
Oh, yeah.
They'll fix that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I actually texted Ringo's publicist to say you got to correct that. So it's
Yeah. No. They'll look. They know what they're doing, and Ringo had a few of his regular team there, and it's if we talk about the album a little bit, I'm sure we'll get down the flavor of why this sounds the way it does. He's got an outside set of eyes and ears, putting this together. Not somebody who's looking at Ringo from the inside looking out, whether it be, Bruce Sugar or anybody like that, that it was somebody, detached from the inner Ringo circle and knew what to capitalize. I mean, the guy's he's one of the best producers. There's a reason for that. He knows how to match the artist with the song and get the right sound and do all of that. But Ringo did have some of his team around him, which was good. Mark Rivera was in town. You saw Mark probably
agent.
come out and sing in the ensemble for Help from My Friends, but he was there to help. It's kind of that little bit of first arm's length to Ringo, knowing how he works. I mean, Mark's worked with Ringo for 30 plus years. He should know what he's doing by now, and he does, obviously.
Right. Yeah. By the way,
I knew there'd be a by the way in there somewhere.
got to throw the honeymooners in. Anyway, but there is a Harry Nilsson song called Without Her.
Oh, really?
Yes. And
Okay.
it's kind of fairly well known. And Blood, Sweat, and Tears covered it on the first album with Cooper on
Oh,
it.
that's right. Yeah.
And that got a lot of airplay, and Herb Alpert covered it. So it's very possible that
And
T-Bone,
yeah.
He's thinking of that.
yeah. So you got Without Her, you got Have You Seen My Baby, and You Don't Know Me at All, the three biggest shocks for me.
Sure.
Fire
Sure.
show. And Without Her was so completely different from the Ringo version. What did Scott and Jeremy, what did you think of War and Treaty doing that? It's a
I
wife team, by the way. That's
I really I really enjoyed it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. It was very different than the version on Boca Blues. Just like You Don't Know Me at All was, I mean, she just had, a voice.
Yeah.
Holy cow. I mean, that was one when I got home, I was like, I even told my wife, I'm like, you know what? It's very different than the Ringo version. Very, like you would
Oh,
click
yeah.
Yeah.
and it's so different.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see how they treat this when it gets to CBS. Will we see the full set list? I don't know. Is it a 2-hour special, a 1-hour special? I don't know. I don't think I've heard anything about the
No.
final edit yet. But it'll be interesting to see which songs, hopefully all of them make it, because it was that good a show.
Mhm.
So hopefully we get to see the whole set list.
Yeah, absolutely.
The most
Which
thing,
was what, 19 songs or something like
yeah.
that.
The most important thing to me is the 3 Ringo songs from the new album have to be in there.
They have to be.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they would have to be.
Yes.
How did you like Have You Seen My Baby by Jamie Johnson?
Great verse.
I thought that was pretty hot. That guy can play.
Yes, yeah, and he took it again very country-ish, obviously, but really, to me, more faithful to the original than the other two were.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That
Yes.
was most loyal to it. I mean, it had a very good electric guitar. He was all over the place. I mean, the guy was playing great,
Yeah, he was.
and he had the right voice for it.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Never heard of him, but he was really good. Really good.
Well, you know something, I think about this when it comes to the All-Star Band, even though so many people are going to see the All-Stars because of Ringo. If you're younger, you may not know who Steve Lukather is. You may not know those Toto songs, even though it seems impossible to us.
Well, Africa has been a hit now all over
Yeah.
again. So that one he kind of at least gets some sort of inside track going, which is nice.
Yeah.
Not everyone will know Colin Hayes from Men at Work.
No.
Not everyone will know Hamish Stewart's from the Average White Band. They may not know those songs, but they may investigate those people just from seeing Ringo's All-Star Band. And likewise, I want to check out Billy Strings now.
Oh my God.
Check out Molly Tuttle.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, I'm not what you would call, by trade a country, a real follower of certainly current country music.
Yeah.
But what I saw that night harkened real well for the current country scene. Molly Tuttle, Larkin Poe, Billy Strings, just excellent. I mean, talented players like crazy.
Yes.
If you do some research online, you'll find that just about every one of these musicians has, at least been in the country music field or Americana field 10 years or more. They're not strangers. So, yeah. And I also want to point out that I think when Ringo sings with a female and they're harmonizing, they sound great together.
Yeah.
Sounds fantastic with Molly Tuttle.
Absolutely.
And certainly on the record with Alison Krauss.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was kind of, I would say, I was disappointed, I guess, but more surprised that she wasn't on the bill at the Ryman, being a featured artist on one of the singles, of the album.
Yeah.
So I was, if I were guessing at who would have been there, and she would have been on that list.
Right.
Yeah.
So looking back at this entire concert, what would be the main highlights for you? Would you just say everything? Or is it really just you wanted so badly to hear Ringo do anything new?
Well, I think the highlight, kind of a broad brush highlight, was hearing Ringo do new material.
Yeah.
That's kind of the broad brush of it. If it's down to particular songs, particular performances, I'm gonna go out on a limb here because it didn't have Ringo on stage for it, but I really thought Sheryl Crow and Molly Tuttle doing "I Don't Want to Spoil the Party" was an absolute highlight. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
That would have been, and if we're down to a Ringo song, that he did, it might be "Look Up." And again, because I knew the other two songs a little bit better, because remember, the album only came out less than a week before these shows.
Right.
I don't know about you guys. Only two things I had heard from the album by the time I got on that plane were the two singles, were "Time on My Hands" and "Thankful." I didn't know the rest of the album.
Yeah.
So hearing "Look Up," to me was that would have been my Ringo treat for the night.
Yeah, that was because I arrived what couple days before, and my CD hadn't come from Ringo's store. So I'm at the airport terminal at the iTunes store, and I'm like, okay, I better download the rest of the album. And that's what I played in the headphones flying there. I'm like, I got to get familiar with the album. So that's exactly what I did. So yeah, no, it was great. Highlight, obviously, like Tom said, Look Up, no doubt about it for me. When Ringo
Yeah.
was off stage, I don't want to spoil the party. Jamie Johnson's Have You Seen My Baby was great. The ensemble, was of course great. Brenda Lee,
Oh yeah.
making Ringo the young on stage. And she made, what did he say? You make me look tall or something?
Well, Ringo, is what, 5'5" or something. She's about up to his chest, and Ringo is about up to T-Bone's chest. I didn't realize how tall he was. They looked like the bars on my cell phone, going up. The three of them when they were together on stage.
Yeah, and I would say the other highlights, he definitely got. The first night was like the dress rehearsal. The second night, again, like we said, was the more polished.
Yeah.
I liked when T-Bone was at the side of the stage saying, okay, and now we're going to bring up Sheryl Crow, or now we're going to bring up Molly Tuttle, and he did, kept the flow going a little more. That was a highlight too.
Yeah, he also introduced all the musicians on stage, the backing musicians,
Yeah.
which Ringo wouldn't have done.
Right.
So it helps that, he did that.
Yeah.
Scott?
Well, if folks are familiar with the Ryman or even a Broadway theater, right? So picture you're at front and center on the stage. And then there's, the lower level, and then there's the balcony. And dead center on the balcony, there's a monitor. So that if you're looking up, it's got lyrics, but it also had the stage banter in there. And he was supposed to have introduced the band on night one, and he was talking about something, and I don't know, started riffing on it, and the thing just went, and he didn't do it, and I was making a mental note because I wasn't sure who the players were,
Right.
but he did get to do it the next night, or T-Bone did anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
But I mean, great players up and down the line. I mean,
No doubt about it.
and it was so great seeing so many of, the family there. I mean, Olivia Harrison was there, Barbara, of course, Jason, Ringo's son, was there, and then all kinds of,
Nancy Lee
friends.
was there.
Yeah, Nancy,
Greg Bissonette.
Bissonette, was there, and
No
it was kind of cool. It was very, very casual down the front there. Like during the intermission, you could pretty much go talk to them,
Yeah.
it was kind of nice. So lots of fun. It was a really, really fun time.
Yeah. Tom, you do have to tell who at night one was your neighbor sitting next to you. That's a great story.
Yeah. So I got my Sirius-XM shirt on, and woman asked me, do you work for Sirius-XM? And I'm thinking she's probably got a problem with the app that she's going to ask me to figure out or something, right? And I said, yeah, actually just for the Beatles channel. And she says, oh, it's my favorite channel. It's on all the time, in the house, in the car, long trips, short trips. It's always on. I love what you guys do. So that's terrific. And I asked what her name was, and the last name was Crow. So she was there. It was one of Cheryl's, I don't think it was her mom, but it was somebody sitting right in the row with Sheryl there. So, but it was kind of cool to say, we're sitting, at least we knew we weren't in the cheap seats. Let's put it that way. Okay. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, lots of folks down in the front. I'm trying to think who else we saw. I mean, it was really interesting because as, I don't know, Jack White would do his song, he wouldn't go off the stage and wait in the wings. He'd come out they had like the first couple rows there.
Yeah.
They would come and watch the show. I was in the first night, I had literally right up against the stage, like pretty much right in front of Jim Keltner. So the two, I was in, I guess it was the fourth row from the middle. So those first couple rows were the artists. It wasn't even family and friends. It was the artists taking their place between songs.
Uh-huh.
So cool. I had never seen that done before. I guess they must have a very small backstage at the Ryman, so whatever. But and then as I say, certainly Barbara was there and Olivia Harrison. That was kind of cool to see her there.
Yeah.
And saw Jason, Ringo's son Jason was there.
Joe Walsh there?
I didn't see Joe Walsh there.
Yeah.
You know who I did see, and I can't believe wasn't up there. Okay, so Brenda Lee is down in the front, and made it a point to go have my picture taken with her, right? And in one of the pictures, who's sitting behind her but Peter Frampton? Now, Frampton lives in Nashville. We know that. I can't believe he wasn't even part of the ensemble at the end, like, come on up and sing Help from My Friends with us.
Yeah.
But Frampton was for sure there.
Wow.
You know that if he asked Ringo, Ringo would say, come on up.
Of course he would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't think Joe Walsh should be there because aren't the Eagles still doing their residency in Vegas?
Yeah, he may be on tour. I don't know what, but I don't think I saw him there.
No.
No.
Usually see Joe and his wife.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't see Marjorie either.
Yeah.
No.
Huh. All right. Scott, we haven't heard from you. What were the highlights for you?
Of course, the three new songs. I really enjoyed the countrified version of "Boys." I thought that was done really well. Um, of course, without her, you don't know me at all, and have you seen my baby? I really enjoyed. I enjoyed the entire set list, but yeah, everything was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, no complaints. No
Well,
complaints.
And Scott, you had a different view because you were up in the balcony.
What was that?
I said you had a different view because you were up in the balcony.
Yeah. I couldn't see Jim Keltner at all, but I knew he was there. But
I didn't know he was there the first show. I thought, I heard them mention his name in the second.
Yeah.
Because they never said he was there in the first show.
Yeah. No, well, I said the first night, literally, because it's not straight rows coming out from the stage. It's like kind of a semicircle.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like at the end of the arch, which puts you right at the foot of the stage. So I was kind of like looking like this all night, like over my shoulder. But I was literally where the steel guitar player and Keltner were. That was pretty much my sight line
Right.
for the first night. Second night, more toward the middle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, for me, may I echo those words,
Yes.
Scott? The three new songs from Ringo, the three big surprises, like you mentioned, Scott. And again, I can't say enough about You Don't Know Me at All.
Was great.
The way that was sung, it was given a real ballad R&B
Yeah.
down to it. It's nothing like Ringo's version.
Yeah.
Why that song was picked. I mean, apparently it was a favorite of the woman who sang it, Mickey Guyton.
Yep.
And like you all said, the ensemble. I mean, we haven't said enough about Billy Strings. I
Oh
mean,
my God.
when he did Honey Don't,
No.
that blew me away.
No.
His fingers are all over the place so fast, and it's melodic what he's playing. It's not like he's there to show off.
Right. He's not just shredding. He's doing it melodically. An
Yeah.
incredible talent.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to call him Billy Shears by accident.
The one and only Billy Strings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for that matter too, Jack White doing "Don't Pass Me By."
Yep.
Yeah.
That's pretty great too.
Yeah. And I, having not been a really huge fan of him, he was, I mean, even opening, with Matchbox and on lead guitar, he was fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
And then, I know Tom did too. I visited Third Man Records, his baby, went there, and stuff. I mean, he's a big deal around there. And he was spot on, and you could tell he seemed like, again, if the ensemble, he had a big smile on his face. He was definitely happy to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the album,
Sure.
and maybe I'll ask the same question that I started the show with. Is this what you expected? Because it's not, I remember being told by Gary Burr that this is more of a traditional country album. I don't think so. I think it has more of a modern sound to it, more Americana to it.
Yeah.
It
I
doesn't sound anything like Blue Coups of Blues.
No.
no. Yeah, listening to it top to bottom, had I not heard, oh, this is Ringo's new country album. If I had to put some sort of a label on it, I probably would lean more toward Americana than
Uh-huh.
than country, than pure country. Um, I love that T-Bone as the producer. He did, kind of like what Mark Knopfler did with Dylan. He got him to sing. He
Yeah.
got him not just to stay in his comfort zone, but challenged him to sing a little bit, which I think really comes through on a lot of the songs. And surrounding him with people he's not worked with before, you know, those two things I think took him just far enough out of his comfort zone, and it was a big success.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's I mean, look, it's too early probably, and right now we're, at least I'm very still very much in the moment and excited. It's new, it's everything. But right now, I would count it certainly among the top tier of his solo albums.
Definitely.
It's, I would absolutely put it up there, with my other favorite Ringo albums. There are things on there that I like that probably, even fall outside the Americana label. The one song that Joe Walsh plays on, Rosetta.
Yep.
Really like that one.
Really good song.
Really good song. A lot of people seem to be gravitating toward Never Let Me Go. Well, I know, like, when, people I'm talking to in our little world, they kind of like that one, and I Live for Your Love. People kind
Oh
of
yeah.
are gravitating to those. I can't figure out how you sell or pick a single these days. I don't know how that works anymore.
Mhm.
But if there were a third single, or if they were going to, God forbid, press a 45, either one of those might be good. But I mean, it comes out strong right at the top with Breathless and Billy Strings. I mean, it's, you don't have to say, oh my God, what am I in for now? Another one of these, you know formulaic Ringo albums. Is this what it's going to
Yeah.
be? It's not.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I
And
don't
I
think
it was.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ken.
I don't think Ringo has been formulaic. I mean, there's a
Well,
certain sound that he has with Bruce Sugar, production-wise,
yeah.
but songwriting-wise, he's written with so many different people,
Yeah.
that has a very strong influence on the songs and the compositions, and they're very different from each other. He
Yeah.
writes
But you know instantly you're listening to a Ringo record. You know
right,
instantly.
Yeah.
yeah, but still, I mean, there's variety within the music because of
Mhm.
the different people he's written with,
Yeah.
primarily. But what were you going to say, Jeremy?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think with T-Bone, again, I mentioned it earlier, but I think, Elton said this about the Union album, what is that? Gosh, maybe 12, 15 years ago already.
Probably, yeah.
And yeah, and he just said, he goes, you know what? He goes, there was some pushback, but he goes, but T-Bone pushed, didn't look and say, this is Leon Russell, this is Elton John, pushed him out a little bit out of their comfort zone. And I think that benefited Ringo. When I heard he was doing it, I remember telling people, if he does what he did with Leon and Elton, and he does it with Ringo, it's going to be a winner. And I mean, I'm looking at the album now, and I'm like, I don't have a song that I would play and skip or whatever. I play it start to finish. It's a good album. I'm one that believes even the so-called weaker Ringo albums still have a few really good songs on them. And
Definitely.
and yeah, and I look at this and I was like, when I downloaded it and I'm playing it the first time on the plane going to Nashville, and I'm like, boy, this is pretty good. I knew I was hyped about going to the show, but I'm like, you know what? This is really T-Bone pushed him. Can You Hear Me Call is probably my favorite.
Hmm.
It it is almost a little, people, I've seen people, oh, well, it's kind of simplistic or whatever, but it's like, you know what? The two of them, again, Molly Tuttle, they sing great. And Ringo just sounds like he's having fun on the song. And it really comes through. And I've even told people who said, hey, we all know people, friends, best friends, whoever, that I haven't listened to Ringo since Goodnight Vienna. Well, you know what? If you miss this album, that's your loss. I mean, I told a couple people, I said, yeah, well, I don't like country. Well, guess what? Just give it a try. And
Give it a try.
Yes. Very, very, but yeah, no, it was a little bit of what I expected, but it exceeded that. He really did. I think T-Bone pushed Ringo, got in against some of these young country, and throwing in Alison Krauss too, to get him, really, to put, again, maybe one more great album in his catalog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there could be more great albums if he has great material.
Yes.
And could any of you explain? I'm not totally sure about this. We all heard the story of T-Bone offering the first song to Ringo, and he
Right.
loved it. And then Ringo said, "Have you got any more songs?" Yeah, I got another 9 of them or 10 of them.
Right.
So those songs weren't necessarily written with Ringo in mind, right?
Oh no, well, Come Back, he's already released.
Did.
Right? I mean, that's already been out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't
T-Bone he didn't go home and write 9 songs and say, I hope Ringo asks me for these.
didn't Gary Burke contribute a song for this album?
Well, he said that there was going to be one of his songs on there, and they were taking it off.
Yeah, it didn't make it.
Yeah.
It'll probably be on the expanded version.
Probably. But I guess because Ringo tends to think an album is 10 songs, and he wanted to have one song on there that he co-wrote, so he had
Right.
it on there. So probably Gary missed the cut.
Mm.
And I would love to hear how that sounded.
Yeah.
Maybe that will turn up on a future version of this.
It'll be the B side when we get maybe, I don't know. I looked at Record Store Day. I was hoping that there'd be something, but not from Ringo. There's some cool stuff coming on Record Store Day, but just nothing from Ringo.
Yeah.
Correct.
And I got to tell you, I know I said this on the Things We Said Today podcast. The first time I heard this in my car, most of my CD listening is in the car, I was disappointed with the mix because I wasn't hearing all the instrumentation. But when I listen with my headphones, what a world of difference. Everything.
Need to get a new car.
Or better.
Speakers are really close. You think everything. There isn't that big a difference between you and the driver's seat and where the speakers are.
Yeah.
So now I'm surprised, but if you listen to this album with the headphones on, it is glorious. Because even some of the stuff, I kind of wish Billy Strings would be mixed up a little bit hotter so you'd hear how great that playing is, especially the acoustic stuff that he's doing.
You bet.
It's still very good when you hear it.
Oh yeah.
You got to listen with the headphones.
Yeah. He's pretty incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. What I really think that kind of like the Beatles, every song is good to great on here. But Time on My Hands being the first song that I heard, I like it even more in the context of the full album. And it really does sound, this is one song that sounds like a traditional.
Yeah, it sure does.
Yeah.
And I think that one should be a classic from Ringo's catalog of any of the songs. And don't get me wrong, I like so many songs here. Look Up to Me has, to me, commercial potential, whatever that means today.
Yeah.
And Breathless is such a great opening song.
It is.
Yeah.
But Never Let Me Go kind of bothers me a little bit because it's so repetitive. You know, never let me, never let me go. It's like 4 times he's singing that. You know, give me something a little bit more than that in the songwriting. But still, I love the whole arrangement of all these songs and the production behind it.
Yeah. No, T-Bone definitely brought the A game. And like I say, it's good. You know, look, I loved that string of albums Ringo made with Mark Hudson, right? They had a very consistent sound.
Yeah.
He knew how to get how to get Ringo to embrace sounding like Ringo of the Beatles.
Right.
He knew how to do that. T-Bone knew how to get this sound, how to get this Americana angle, how, country has now, gravitated into, Americana in that sense, and how to get Ringo to sound at home with it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Do you think it still matters to Ringo how well his albums do?
Yes.
definitely.
Oh
Yes. Look,
Like like
there's 500 different charts today, right? I was reading it, my eyes were just like spinning. Like, okay, it's the Americana folk download chart. Okay, I mean that they've got it. It's very, very boutique, but the fact that it went to number one on several of the boutique charts, country album sales or whatever they were, and number one country in England. He actually put out a tweet. Hey, we made it to number one in England. Let's try and do it in America.
yeah,
And again, it's not an official chart, but I mean, let's call it what it is. Who's the biggest record retailer in the country? It's Amazon.
absolutely.
I went to Amazon, and it was like number 3 in the legacy artist something something, but was number one in country. And they do both sales and downloads, obviously, Amazon. So it did well there, just right out of the gate, I guess, with advance orders and everything.
Yeah.
So I would say up to this album, no, he'd probably gotten away from thinking that one of his albums, if it didn't go to number one, was a failure. But with this one, I think, look, it's got to be rewarding to see your album sitting at the top of any chart. Okay,
Right.
it has to be. And at 84, it really has to be.
Uh,
Okay. So,
yeah. I
Definitely.
remember many years ago Ringo saying when somebody would comment about his record sales and then they're not what they used to be, and he said, "Well, let's face it, I'm not Britney Spears,
yeah. Well,
whoever the
remember,
selling artist was of the time."
yeah. But even when Time Takes Time came out, and that's absolutely
Yes.
top shelf Ringo. I mean, it's
Yeah.
top shelf Ringo.
oh yeah.
Um, he had the article and the interview in Rolling Stone. And yeah, it's now 33 years ago that album came out. But even then, detached from, 20 years detached from Ringo and Goodnight Vienna, they said, what do you hope for this? And he had said, I hope for it to go to number one. I mean, and that was so far removed from any sense of possibility at that time, but it was still that thought process.
Yeah.
I want it to be a hit.
Definitely.
You feel the same way, Jeremy, about
Yeah. You know what?
sales
Yeah,
at this point?
absolutely. And I think it's also nice. The other thing is, don't forget, just a few years ago, where Ringo said, "All I'm going to do is EPs from now on."
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then get this. So that, I look at it as that as like, wow, it's a full album. It's again, people who've dissed Ringo for probably the last 40 years, it's like this is top notch. This is for, again, an 84-year-old ex-Beatle. It just it exceeded expectations, and I was actually kind of hoping that T-Bone would come out and say, you know what, this has done so well, I think we're going to do another one. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask the three of you. Would you like to see another album with
Sure.
T-Bone?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if they did any more than the 11 tracks. Did they do, I don't know, 20 and pick the best 11? I doubt it, but I wonder if there's anything left over.
Yeah.
But you know what,
Well,
Ken?
The Gary Burst song's probably left over.
Yeah. And if they recorded it, right?
Yeah.
He just submitted it.
Mhm.
So, as Jeremy just said, from a Beatle, this was something we were talking about on the forum the other night. It was so cool that he's sitting at number one on whichever charts it was, the 3 or 4 different charts. Okay. The same week, those Beatles win a Grammy. And I said it reminded me, and I had this flashback to 1988 when the Beatles as a group were being honored going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. and George had the #1 single the week leading up to the induction. Which was a first, and I believe, and only time that's ever happened. That someone had the #1 single the week they were being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So, that celebration of, Got My Mind Set on You sitting right next to the Beatles being inducted in the Hall of Fame. George he was enjoying that comeback with the Cloud Nine album and was kind of like the Beatle of choice at that point. And now Ringo, everyone's marveling at how good he looks and sounds.
Right.
And he's at #1, and the Beatles just, become a Grammy winners again.
Yeah.
So it's always a good time to be a Beatle fan, but when you get a nice doubleheader like that,
Oh yeah.
it's fantastic.
Do you think Look Up could be nominated for a Grammy next year?
Well, they too have loads of categories. Best Americana folk thing. It could. I don't think it would be, again, we still got 11 months to go or whatever it is. I don't know about album of the year or anything, but under the Americana or folk,
why not?
Anything I've heard this year, right?
Yeah.
That would be something.
It would be.
That would be something, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean that would be pretty incredible.
It really would be something.
No, I mean, like, there are so many different categories. I mean, at the Grammys last week, a friend of mine, Mark Conklin, also splits his time between here in Northeast and Nashville. I was so honored to know that one of my friends was nominated for a Grammy, Best Roots/Gospel Album. How many Roots gospel albums are there? I don't know. There were at least 5. I saw a category of 5.
Right.
But I mean, that's how boutique it is. It's a parallel to what's going on in the charts. There are so many different charts, not just stylistically, but then broken down by digital download, album sales, etc. So they've got it sliced and diced about as far as they can.
And where Ringo's concerned, most of his sales are physical sales.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is with a lot of the veterans out there, the people with these artists.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that Ringo has said in either one or a couple of interviews that he'd like his next album to be with a band. Have you seen this? He said words to that effect of kind of like he said with the All-Star Band, make a whole album with those same musicians. So maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't, but I certainly wouldn't mind another album just like this one.
I think that the 2 key words that I heard in that sentence was next album.
Yes, album.
Not EP.
Very good.
Yeah. My next album, I don't care who's playing on it. But I mean, the All-Stars have really become, not just a traveling roadside attraction, with rotating players. He's got the same guys now for over a decade, pretty much. So I mean, it wouldn't be a stretch to think that Lukather and Greg Bissonette and Colin Hay will be on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be nice. Just the whole idea of the same musicians on each song.
Yeah.
All right. So before we go here, Tom, why don't you just tell the story of how your name really should be pronounced Frangione?
Okay. So a couple years ago, I had the great honor and privilege to spend some time with Paul McCartney in a one-to-one interview. And it was to celebrate the anniversary of the best album I think he's made since he left the Beatles, Tug of War. I've always loved it. Ken, you've known I've loved this record forever. And it was an anniversary, and we put the idea forward, to do a special, go track by track. This way he can talk about each song, and we can recycle those bits. So the next time we play whatever, Take It Away, Paul McCartney remembers Take It Away. Oh, I remember playing Take It Away. Then Ringo played the drums and da-da-da, and you play the song. But we framed it with, a few general questions about the album up front and a few general questions at the back, but went track by track. So we get through the album, through the album cuts and through the interview, and we're right on time. They're pretty strict about how much time you get. And I'm getting to the end of my block, had 1 or 2 minutes, and thanked him profusely and just asked for a couple of housekeeping items, a picture to put on the website for when we promote the special.
Mhm.
And if he would read a liner, and I had it printed out in big black bold letters, just the way you're supposed to. And it said, "Hi, it's Paul McCartney here with Tom Frangione on the Beatles channel." He read it and he said, "Hey there, it's Paul McCartney, and I'm here with Tom Frangione on the Beatles channel." And he stopped and he said, "Did I pronounce your last name correctly?" So, because if not, I'll redo it. I'll do it again. I said, "Well, actually, you did it right." I said, in Italian, you pronounce every letter. I said, so if you think of like Don Corleone and Don Corleone, right?
Mhm.
They use both in The Godfather. I said, but you did it right. So it's good. Even though at work, on the radio, here in conversation, when I introduce myself to people, I say Tom Frangione. Okay. But we now have Tom Frangione, memorialized by Sir Paul for the legal ID on Sirius-XM. So he said he must have picked that up from Linda because she was such a great cook. And, oh, good, we have visual. This will work. He said, and she would make the mozzarella and the pasta fagioli, Frangione. And he was just, among all other things he was that day, he was very funny and very spirited and very up. So when he was doing the Italian thing, it was great. So among those little things that we got at the end, the liner note and the photo, in the photo, I had a brand new copy of the Tug of War album. I mean, I literally took the cellophane off it in front of him. That's how new. We used that in the picture. And of course, I had to ask, now that I've, unwrapped it, would you mind defacing it a little bit? So he took the Sharpie and he wrote to Tom, and then in block letters, "Hey Frangione," and then signed his name below it. So it's sort of a one of a kind piece, but it's just as if I needed one more thing to make sure that if I live to 1,000, I never forget that afternoon.
Uh,
That thing hangs proudly on the wall.
hey, if he called you Frangione, that's it. That's permanent.
That's it. It's done.
That's how I'm going to introduce you from now
It's okay.
on.
By the way, it's correct. Okay.
You got to pronounce it the same way Paul pronounces it,
Well, then Frangione it shall be.
like Magneto and Titanium Man,
Titanium.
not titanium.
That's
Titanium.
right. Titanium.
So, before we pass you over to the others, you want to give a quick roundup? Actually, make sure you mention that you'll be at Beatles at the Beach.
Okay. Yeah, coming up March 6th through 9th down in beautiful Delray Beach. The Beatles on the Beach Festival. Loads of live music and fun in the sun and all kinds of cool stuff. I was asked to come on down there and help MC and co-host that event. So if you're coming down, it looks great. I've seen, the video and highlight reels of years past. It looks like a great deal of fun. I
Hmm.
know people who have been there and played there, like Greg Bisonet and I don't know, the Fab Four, and I know a lot of people have done. They say it's different. It's not like the Fest for Beatlefan. It's completely different. It's like outside in a like a town center downtown, and there are clubs that get involved. And I still don't know the lay of the land yet, but it looks like a great deal of fun. So Beatlesonthebeach.com. So you can get all the information there. It's March 6th through 9th in Delray Beach, Florida. That'll be fun. And then just, come back, hopefully I'll still have a little bit of a tan. But the last weekend of the month is the Fest for Beatle fans here in Jersey at Jersey City. So you can get all the information for that at thefest.com. I know I'll see you guys there, which will be great fun again.
And
Absolutely.
the shows that you do on Sirius XM.
Ah, yeah. So
I'm just kidding.
so you want me to work backwards, do the ones I don't do? I mean, I know I will.
No,
So coming up in May, the channel will be on. It'll be our 8th anniversary.
Hmm.
So been with them since the launch, which has been a great honor and privilege. So the longest running one that I'm doing is the Fab Forum with Dennis Elsis and Bill Flanagan. That's live every Wednesday night. Call and tell us your Beatles story. I was on a podcast with Ken Michaels. That's a Beatles story.
Make
Uh,
sure you tell them
and
that.
we get guests, and we get we do some news, but it's mostly now calls, and we're getting like kind of into Cousin Brucey Saturday Night Land requests, dedications, anything goes. So it's pretty free form, and that's called the Fab Forum every Wednesday night, 9 to 11. I also host a show called Way Beyond Compare, a new show every week with rarities, different versions, stuff from the box sets, outside projects, things like that. Just, anything left of center, non-LP B-sides, tribute records that they did, various artist compilations, all kinds of odds and ends. So that one's always great fun to uh, come up with something new and fun every week. Then I have two that they rotate week after week through the month. The first is called Apple Jam, which I do with David Frick, the great rock and roll journalist. He wrote for Rolling Stone for many years, and if you have at least 10 albums in your record collection, he's written he's written notes that you have seen somewhere before. David's a great guy and a great talent to work with. So that airs the first Wednesday of the month and runs for a week. And then the second Wednesday, I do a show called Beyond the Beatles. And it's 5-year blocks of solo Beatles history. So the episode that we're running now, I guess it actually premieres in a couple of days, I believe, is for 1995 through 2000, or is it? No, it's 91 to 95 coming up this week. And then that runs for a week, and then it goes back to Apple Jam, and then it goes, and it alternates through the 4 weeks of the month. And then there's a show that Dennis Elsis hosts and voices called Across the Universe, The Life and Legacy of John Lennon. I write and pick the music for that one, but I don't host it. But that's still my fifth, whatever, slot on the Beatles channel. So it keeps me super duper busy, but always something new and fun. Even something like, the John show last year when that Mind Games box set, excuse me, when the Grammy winning
Yes.
Mind Games box set came out. Plenty to pick from in there. All those evolutions and outtakes, and that was a gift that gave to like every show. It was on Apple. We could do it on Apple Jam. It was solo music. Could do it on Beyond the Beatles. It had rarities. We could do it on Way Beyond Compare, and then talk about it on the Fab Forum. It touched all five corners of the thing. So still always something new and exciting to do with each one of those.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's amazing how you're so involved with so many different shows. I don't know how you get any sleep.
I don't generally, but no, it's a pretty big time commitment, but it's worth it when you hear the shows on the air and you say, "Well, that sounded all right," and if somebody writes in and says, you know, on Apple Jam, you guys played songs from that Doris Troy album that were really good. I'm going to go check that album out. There's the
I I
that's
actually just I actually just found that album on CD.
Yeah,
That
no,
Doris, yeah,
that's actually not even just a far-fetched example. That is on Apple Jam, kind of the one. I mean, look, Badfinger is Badfinger is Badfinger. When we do Badfinger spotlights, the Badfinger Army comes out. They need to be in the Hall of Fame and everything else. But there's so much good Badfinger stuff coming out. There's demos and things like that coming out of the. There you go.
there
Out
it
of the
is.
Ivies and the Pete Ham and Tommy Evans camps.
Right.
So there's always stuff to do there, and that's actually though. I'd have to say if that's the one. If I had to pick one artist/album that we have really turned people on to, it's been the Doris Troy one. We get a lot of good feedback on them. Yeah.
Oh, no Jackie Lomax or
Oh no, we do all of it. I mean, if it's on app, I mean, we have played John Tavener music. Okay. We have
Yeah.
played plenty of Yoko Ono music. We have played Ravi Shankar music. So we touch anything and everything on Apple. And the tentacles go a little wide sometimes. We'll do stuff that was on Apple Films, or stuff like that. So
Have you played stuff off the new Mary Hopkin album yet? Doodle?
well, I see that's not Apple. Okay. I mean, the same way we wouldn't play, I don't know, Billy Preston, we wouldn't play, With You I'm Born Again,
Yeah.
from 1979. It's after he left. But through Mary's website, she released a live album from 72, live at, I want to say Albert Hall, but it was some live in England somewhere.
I think there's a few Beatles songs on that
Yeah,
album.
well, it was Beatles songs, and there was
Yeah.
stuff from her Apple catalog.
Yeah.
We played that for sure. So, and when that Apple box set came out with all the bonus tracks on the individual albums, and then the double disc of Mary Hopkin and Badfinger Rarities, there's plenty to pick from.
Mm. Do you play much of Paul's classical music?
No, well, certainly not on Apple Jam. But no, I don't think the channel has gone, terribly far into that. Um, I'm not sure that would fit on any of the five. So I guess it could go on beyond the Beatles. I mean, it's music he made after he left the Beatles. Could go there.
How about Way Beyond Compare? Would that go on Way Beyond Compare?
Well, no, Way Beyond Compare is, as I say, you wouldn't play stuff off of an album, even though it would be, anyone would consider it a rarity. We were going through songs before, like Without Her. Okay. That in radio terminology, that's a rarity. How often do you hear that on the radio?
I know I've asked you about Pete Best. Would that be like a Way Beyond Compare thing?
Not really. You know who does do that though? Chris Carter, who does the great Breakfast with the Beatles morning show. He does a thing on Fridays called Family and Friends Fridays. That's where those tentacles will go out for Pete Best, Mary Hopkin. If it's not a Mary Hopkin Apple song, that's where he might go, and stretch that a little bit.
All right. A lot going on there at the channel.
Tons going on over at Sirius-XM 18. Tons.
Okay. Jeremy, you want to tell folks what you've been up?
I'll be at the Jersey Fest, and I'm looking at the calendar. What is 6 weeks, roughly? A little more.
About that.
There you go. So I will be there for that right after opening day, right after my Astros do play Tom's Mets. So that'll right at that point. We'll see how that goes. But no, my thing is you guys are all great, and I appreciate the work all of you guys do. And again, as I mentioned earlier, for everybody who hasn't given this a shot yet, do yourself a favor.
Okay, and we appreciate your support of all of our shows.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Spread the word as much as you can.
And thanks for the offer too. I appreciate it.
Okay, Scott, tell us more about With the Beatles.
Well, my show's of course weekly now on WUSB Stonybrook. I pretty much play just about anything associated with the Beatles, solo stuff, hits, rarities, Apple artists, the Epstein acts like Jerry and the Pacemakers, those guys. I even play Peter and Gordon. I covers. I throw it in, whatever I could find that's a Beatle associated. 3 hours of, history, new stuff, rarities, whatever I could get my hands on.
Yeah.
It's been a great journey. Yeah. Since 2020, so I'm very grateful to be on the radio, playing my favorite band.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of what I do in my show with every little thing. But when I see your playlist, it blows me away how deep you go, and you discover all the cover versions before I do. Yeah. The new ones that are out there. It's incredible how.
Did you get my message about the Fernando cover of Now and Then?
Perdomo, a friend of ours, just covered Now and Then.
Yep.
So yeah, and was it you that told me about Tommy James?
Yes.
Tommy James covered You Got to Hide Your Love Away. And that just was released digitally. Yep. So I very often insert that into every little thing because you told me about it. So, a lot of the news that I get on my podcasts, I get from Scott, as well as John Bazzini and Steve Marinucci once in a while, even. So I'm grateful to everyone that helps out with my shows. But anyway, this has been fantastic. Thank you guys for coming along and sharing your memories of Ringo at the Rama. And Ringo,
Rama. Wait, the
Ringo at
Rama?
the Rama?
Ringo Rama? Ryman.
oh, well, it is getting late here. But anyway, Ringo at the Ryman. And Ringo will be at the Grand Ole Opry. He's going to be performing
Yeah.
on February 21st. From what I understand, it's just a set, right?
Well, it's a multi-artist
Yeah.
event. Like, they announced that when we were down there, right? I
Right.
mean, Harris said he's been invited and he said
Yep.
yes. And I'm thinking, great, I'll go back to the hotel and book my, book my return trip.
Yeah.
I'll come. But yeah, that's going to be multi-artist, which okay, so far still so good. I've seen a lot of good stuff in Nashville lately.
Uh-huh.
But it won't be a full Ringo set. It'll probably be just a small handful of songs. And it'll be, the band that T-Bone put together, probably not Keltner though.
Yeah.
It'll be the Nashville guys. So, hey, look, it's another shot to hear, songs from,
Look,
Look Up. So it ain't gonna be bad. But I'm not gonna be able to make it down there for that, unfortunately.
yeah. And I should be at the Fest for Beatlefans on the Saturday. Not sure about the Sunday yet. So
Okay.
I'll see some of you who are watching there.
Yep.
Again, Tom, Jeremy, Scott, thanks for doing this. And thanks
Thank
to all of you for watching. And please subscribe if you can to the channel. And we'll see y'all next time. Take
We'll
care.
see you soon.
Yep.
Peace.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.